Okay, so hi everyone. I'm here to talk about building a team culture in a remote world. I'm Dana, and I'm presenting this talk from my home in Seattle. This is kind of, a remote conference, so I wanted to let you guys know where I'm from. I'm a design leader currently at Facebook, as Preet mentioned, leading design for music and audio, and I've been working in this space for 14 years. Previously at Uber, Google Maps, Cardboard Camera, Google Search. My passion is really where technology and design meet to help people in their lives and supporting designers in their growth. But why am I talking about this topic today? So originally I'm from Israel, and from early on in my career, I've always worked in what we would maybe call remote office. Even after moving to Seattle 10 years ago, figuring out collaboration across time zones and location, growing a team culture has always been important to me as a designer and as I grew as a leader. We spend so much time away from our families at work, and having that time spent with a team you love is just as important as the products we build and the customers we serve. So what will I be covering today? Why team culture matters. What are some challenges we've all probably been seeing in this space over the last, more than a year and a half, especially, and how might we improve team culture? So with the impact of COVID, remote work model is something a lot of us switched to over the last year and a half, and in many cases is here to stay. Building a team culture, connections, and a sense of belonging in a remote world is more important than ever. It really requires attention to building processes that came more naturally before. So in this session, I will share some of the challenges and best practices that have worked for me and peer teams at Facebook. So I want to, take this opportunity to really quote one of my one of my favorite people, Brene Brown. Connection is why we're here. It's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. So really, kind of something that I think is kind of the base to all of it, right? How do we kind of help people connect? But let's look at some of the headlines we're seeing right now. The last year and a half with COVID have been challenging on so many ways. We were thrown to a state of working from home, had to change the way we work while we take care of our families, trying to balance all of it. Life really became this blend of always on, trying to separate work-life balance, creating burnout, letting go of some of the team culture we learned to accept as a given. With these outcomes and without strong connections to peer and teams, people are leaving their jobs in droves. As we look towards the future, there will be a new normal where some folks on your team will be fully remote, some will be blended from home in the office, and some will maybe always be in the office or maybe fully remote teams, right? So strengthening team culture should be a top priority for all of us to be successful leader and keep retentions on our team. When I basically converted this a question for my peer managers at Facebook and asked them in an internal poll, what have been the topics they're most concerned about with remote work? Building a team culture was the highest on the list. Again, it's something very top of mind, especially in the recent time that we're seeing. And this is another quote, a quote from one of my coworkers. So as y'all remember, before we were all working from home, we had lots of in-person events, team buildings. I even remember talking in this conference 2 years ago. We had all these events where we saw people in person and connected. Things were just kind of more, I guess, fluid, and you didn't have to extra plan some of the things that are not as natural right now. What used to be hallway conversations moved to chat or additional meetings, creating info and meeting overload for some. Less dedicated time for bonding, offsite, after work dinner and drinks and things like that. People feel less connected without a personal in-person connection. So, how might we improve team culture in a remote world? I wanted to talk about some of the things I've seen that work for both myself and sister teams. So here are some of the key themes that me and my peers identified. Basically, promote a culture of getting to know one another. Optimize tools and processes to help this. Follow remote new hires best practices. Prioritize fun together and team building. And of course, build team health and balance. For promoting a culture of getting to know one another, um, these are some of the examples, but I'll talk to multiple ones. Anything from offsites, focusing on personal get to know each other. As you saw in our joint mirror board, it was so great to see all the places you all came from in the world and having, interest to everyone. Allow for socialization during meetings, like a prompt question at the beginning of the meeting. Ideas to do one-on-ones remotely, like phone calls or other ways you can, do this without the screen fatigue. Coffee and lunch roulettes, making random connections with new people that maybe you don't know as well on your teams. Get to know you, diversity conversations, and check in by someone that's not a manager. Here you can also see examples from some of the activities that we've been doing with our teams. So we did this trivia question to kind of um, use these random quirky fun facts about us where our team had to guess. Each of us kind of had one question that we introduced, and people had to guess what is the right answer. The other one is this really cool tool that's called Resus. It's an internal tool at Facebook where I use it with my team every day. It basically proposes a question for all of us on the team, and we have to give an answer and then guess what everyone else answered. It's just yet another way to kind of learn more things about each other. Another activity I really liked doing with my team was these trading cards. So, really taking the opportunity to learn more about each other. Anything from what's your favorite communication style? What song represents you? Are you a cat and dog person? Are you, more in person meeting or chat? Are you a savory or sweet person? And of course, where do you see your strength? We hope to also print these, but this is one of my favorite activities of just getting to know each other more than the personal, but also in the way we work. For building culture with optimized online tools and processes, we also do a lot. Internal tools to support remote things like scheduling messages, so we never chat off working hours. Clear signal where people are located. Optimizing reviews creates office hours for remotes. Multiple breaks during long sessions. Considering screen fatigue, as I mentioned, so when do you really need a meeting versus when can you do some of the activities offline? Pairing people across orgs to encourage those hallway chats we used to have. Finding ways to make meetings more interactive, maybe with VR. Remote facilitation techniques, hand raised tools, etc. And of course, working in collaboration and products to feel less lonely. Some of the examples here, as you can see on the right, are also a lot of toolkits and templates that we use in order to really make processes that work something that we can use and extend to other teams as well. For remote new hire best practices, this one is really near and dear, I think, to probably a lot of the people on this call. It's so much harder to onboard to a new team when you're remote. So really making sure we as leaders prioritize one-on-ones for newer people. Um, New hire remote manager groups. As a manager, sometimes it can be even harder to onboard to a new team because so much of the work we do is about building these connections and relationships. And in beginning of day, daily quick check-ins with new hires. An example is as well as list of questions to ask and getting to know you one-on-one, 30, 60, 90-day plans. Another one that's we found that's really helpful is something like a performance review buddy, someone to help align team goals and leveling the first time around. And also mental models for the organization, org charts, partner connections, who is who when you onboard someone. So you can see we have all of these in our internal tools, assigning guides and onboarding buddies, letting people know who they should meet, and of course, kind of structuring all the activities that are recommended across the timeline. This one might be maybe my favorite part, which is really prioritizing fun together and team building. Sometimes we almost forget how amazing it could be to just have fun and how that really emphasizes that connection that you can have with people. So really like thinking of some of the great activities you can do with your team, and there's so many things we can do even though we're remote. On the right is an example of an activity that we did with my team where all of us had to draw one another without looking directly at the screen. So we had some interesting artwork that was formed. But anything from weekly or monthly game nights, offsites for different time zones, analog lab activities that are offline that can be done together. Just 2 weeks ago, we had an Italian cooking session together. Remote games, of course, and of course, all kinds of different activities or games like the trivia night I mentioned. We also do something like what we do here, but internally. So, Design Week, chance for designers to connect and learn from each other, and communities of practice, growing skills, and craft skill swap sessions as well. So, if, for example, a designer is their hobby is woodworking or typography, can they basically hand off that knowledge to other designers as a way to connect over interests and hobbies beyond what you do actually at work? And we also, of course, have how do we build team health and balance? This is a really, really critical one as well because we know people are tired. A lot of people are really burnt out. There was just a lot going on with the work, trying to balance family and everything that's kind of going on all at the same time. So some of the toolkits are really, first of all, just helping people set their own boundaries. What are the work hours that that they need to make sure that they have? If there's like a session that you need to make sure you always have time for, do you always have time with your kids or maybe with your best friend that you hang out sometime, making sure that you really set those boundaries and don't have meetings or don't have any work on those times. What's your communication preference? What are some things that are really critical for you to feel like your wellness is being met? Is it like going to a yoga once a week? Is it really making sure you walk every day in the morning or take some of the calls basically on your phone so you don't just sit on your in your chair the whole day? And of course, what are success indicators? What if if all of those would happen? How do you know you really met a great boundary for your life and you're really like feeling that everything is balanced? The other thing that we really look a lot at is what is the structure for the calendar of the team and the individual, right? Like we have a lot of things we work here around. For example, we have no meeting Wednesdays, making sure the designers have that time to really focus and have time to really work and do deep thinking. We also started doing more sessions like that, Mondays and Fridays, as well as organize no meeting weeks. So those are things we actually coordinate together with the entire cross-functional teams where it can be anything from around holidays or just a date we decide where we say, okay, this entire week, our team will not have meetings. It's actually encouraged for everyone to take time off, where people know that when they take that time off, no one is doing any important meetings when they're going and nothing kind of important is happening essentially. And of course, messaging norms. So we have our own bot that basically, kind of mutes all pings you might get out of the working hours, and making sure again we never bug people after hours. um, and then of course looking at just overall ratios of focus time to meeting time, creative space versus the doing space. Those are some of all the ideas that again could potentially work for building team health and balance, but of course would love to hear more ideas later on when we finish this talk. Um, so yeah, I think right now I really want to make sure that I hear from you. So I'll just finish it with the words: "Be the team culture change you wish to see in the world." And yeah, with that, I want to kind of hear from you. What are things that have worked for you with building a team culture for your teams? Any questions you have on any of the toolkits that I showed here? I'm happy to answer any questions.